You know, it's very important to remember 9/11. Those of you who are my age or somewhat younger, we remember it. But it's 17 years ago. We have teenagers who didn't live through it. And this is a danger we still face from the Islamo-Nazis. Whether they control a nation-state like Iran, or whether they seek to strike out like Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and so forth. This is a grave threat to this country. And an awful lot of good people died on that day. And it did change so much of what takes place in this country. And as I watch the memorials and listen to them on the radio as well, when you consider how petty the media are, how petty some people are, it's really quite appalling. You wonder if people have learned anything. We need to strengthen our immigration policies, we get a fight. We need a wall, physical barriers on the southern border, we get a fight. We need to build up the United States military, we get a fight. So little of this is discussed in our society today. Day in and day out, we are bombarded with the bleak, negative attacks of the media, of the left, of our enemies. And it's worth remembering what a magnificent country this is, what a magnificent people you are. And we've sacrificed a great deal through the decades, through the centuries. It's a country to love, not resent. I'll be right back. I don't really know how to describe this other than evil. Evil. In the Washington Post today, an op-ed by Joe Scarborough of MSNBC, has his own TV show with his soon-to-be wife, his paramour. And as you're thinking about 9/11 and the lead-up to 9/11, to sit down and pen an op-ed of the kind that Joe Scarborough did is pure evil. It's diabolical. And he's very proud of it. Here's what he said this morning on his program. Listen to this. Cut one, go.
I love that line, that Roger Cohen line, America is an idea. And if you strip America of its ideas, forget about knocking down buildings in the financial district, forget about running planes into the Pentagon. Those are tragedies, but those tragedies bring us closer together. America is an idea. You gut America of that idea.
Now, let's just stop. You see how quickly he dismisses it. It's 9/11. He's using the occasion of 9/11 to lead up to a point that you'll hear in a moment. You know, forget about knocking down buildings in the financial district. Forget about running planes into the Pentagon. Those are tragedies, but those tragedies bring us closer to... He's got ice water in his veins. Because he's sprinting to a point that he feels he desperately must make. Go ahead.
Arm to America. Roger Cohen wrote that right after Donald Trump was elected, and unfortunately 18 months later across the world you have people looking at a country that is saying they want to ban people from coming to America because of their religion.
Now, nobody has said that. Nobody. Nobody has said that, Joe Scarborough. Why do you lie through your teeth? Particularly on this day. Why do you choose to lie like that? Go ahead.
Brett Kavanaugh, who wants to be on the Supreme Court, refusing to answer whether people should be banned from coming to the United States because of their race.
He didn't refuse to answer whether people should be banned from coming to the United States because of their race. In fact, the email that Cory Booker demanded be released demonstrated the opposite. Why do you lie like you do, Joe Scarborough? Why do you lie through your teeth? Go ahead.
The Constitution, And the accumulation of that, the retweeting of neo-Nazi videos, Charlottesville.
This president deported a 95-year-old Nazi where Barack Obama refused to, where George W. Bush refused to. You really think he's a neo-Nazi? How outrageous is this? Do you think the neo-Nazis like the fact that this president has a 90% popularity rate in Israel? You think the neo-Nazis like the fact that he has a daughter and a son-in-law and grandchildren who are Orthodox Jews? Do you think the neo-Nazis like the fact that he recognized Jerusalem as the eternal capital of Israel and moved our embassy there? Other presidents running for office lied about it. He actually did it. Or that he closed the PLO office? Tell me, Joe Scarborough, what the hell have you done in your life? Are those the actions of somebody who's sympathetic to neo-Nazis? Why do you lie like this, Joe Scarborough? Why do you lie through your teeth? Go ahead.
Go on and on. What he said about majority black countries.
He didn't say anything about majority black countries. He talked about destitute countries. Destitute countries. And that is a matter of immigration policy. It's been the immigration policy of this country for some time. That people who come to this country need to be able to contribute to this country. That means some will be destitute, some will not. But he's talking about standards that have been in place for 150 years. Only to the last 10 years have they not been in place. Has nothing to do with race. Go ahead.
That is tearing more at the fabric of America than attacks on the Twin Towers did.
Than attacks on the Twin Towers did. So Trump is more dangerous, more damaging to America than the Islamo-Nazis that slammed those jetliners into our buildings and into central Pennsylvania. You must really have a hate on. You must really be an egomaniac beyond measurement to say such things. Like I said, evil and diabolical. Go ahead.
Built from that. We became stronger because of that. But this seems to me a far graver threat to the idea of America.
The far graver threat to the idea of America. That is Donald Trump. He's a kook, this Joe Scarborough. And, of course, the Washington Post ran his piece, just like the New York Times ran the anonymous piece. Our free press. The golden age of journalism. You see, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are truly patriotic Americans, you see it, I see it. Anything goes when it comes to attacking the President of the United States. And not only that, anything goes when it comes to attacking you. Scarborough has had people on his show that have said that you are the equivalent of Nazis and racists. This is really quite evil, quite diabolical, what's taking place here. And they have to lie in order to advance their positions and their arguments. And to use the occasion of 9/11 to push out some drivel is truly unbelievable to me. There's a guy by the name of Devin McCourty. Devin McCourty, New England Patriots. Is he still a player or is he retired? Do you know, Rich? He's still a player. And he was on MSNBC today. This MSNBC. I mean, this is a real hate network. Now listen to this football player with the New England Patriots. Cut 2, go.
I think if you truly want to get involved and not just throw out the idea, oh, these guys are protesting the anthem and the servicemen, but to actually listen to us and see what we're talking about. We've had opportunities to talk to some of those servicemen, and they said that's what they fought for. So I think a day like today where we're talking about 9/11 everywhere, I think it's the quality of what people went through when they were trying to rescue lives. That's the same thing we're trying to fight for. The
same thing you're trying to fight for? You mean taking a knee at a football game is the same thing you're trying to fight for when those first responders were trying to rescue people? Did MSNBC go back to those first responders, those who are still with us, and ask them if taking a knee at a football game is the same thing as when they went into those buildings to try and save other human beings, that that's the same thing as taking a knee? Is this guy, Devin McCourtney, this stupid? This self-deluded? I think he is. And, of course, the media give him a platform. The media give him a platform. MSNBC wants this message out. The Washington Post wanted the Scarborough message out. I strongly doubt that the vast majority of active duty military and veterans in this country agree. I strongly doubt that the vast majority of first responders in New York City, at the Pentagon, in central Pennsylvania agree with this. I strongly doubt that the vast majority of these heroes agree with Joe Scarborough that Donald Trump is more dangerous than what took place on 9/11 because he's a threat to the American idea. These are very bad times, ladies and gentlemen. We have elements within this country. I believe they are a distinct minority, although they're all over the media and they seem like a distinct majority. There are elements within this country who absolutely hate it. Joe Scarborough hates this country. To make a comment like this, to write an op-ed like he did, he despises his fellow Americans. He can talk all he wants about the American idea. We have an American reality. We have a Declaration of Independence. We have certain principles. We have a Constitution of the United States. We have a civil society. America is more than an idea. When John Locke was asked about his ideas of natural law and unalienable rights, where do these come from? Where do these ideas? Where are they today? You know what he said? America. That's where these ideas are. They're in America. They're more than ideas. It's America. With real documents, with real principles, with real institutions. That Scarborough and this clown in the football suit are attacking. And they attack on 9/11. They don't care. They'll attack on 9/11. They'll attack on D-Day. They'll attack on the anniversary of Gettysburg. They have no respect, none whatsoever, for the history of this country. They have no respect for the vast majority of people in this country. White, black, brown, yellow, red. It doesn't matter. No respect. When Joe Scarborough sits down with his fat ass and making tens of millions of dollars and writes an op-ed like this, when this clown football player, same thing, comes up, talks about America. America is not a nation of oppression. America is not a nation of racism. It is a magnificent country like none mankind has ever conceived before. It's more than an idea. It's a fact. I'll be right back. Now, the one good thing about the Scarborough piece in the Washington Compost is this. It will be his scarlet letter forever. It will be a stain on his forehead forever. His quite sizable forehead. You see, Joe Scarborough doesn't go to war. His children don't go to war. I haven't gone to war, and my children haven't gone to war. But I respect the people who do and who have. I respect the men and women in blue, in law enforcement. At the end of virtually every single radio program, I say so. Same with the firefighters, same with the emergency personnel. And now I've added Border Patrol and ICE because they're under attack. You notice Scarborough didn't focus on those men and women in his op-ed, did he? And you notice in his op-ed and during his program, he didn't focus on the enemy, did he? The Islamo-Nazis, ISIS, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, and on and on. He didn't focus on that. He didn't bring on guests to discuss from where they get their ideology out of the Quran and why. And why they do what they do. He's not interested in exploring tough issues. 9/11. And he attacks Trump. This is a very evil, diabolical, and mentally ill person as far as I'm concerned. So consumed with personal hate and revenge. And yet the Washington Post runs the piece. The Washington Post, which rejects the vast majority of individuals who submit pieces. They found Joe Scarborough's piece compelling. Compelling. On 9/11. That's how they respect the families. And there are many Gold Star families out there whose family members joined the military as a result of 9/11. And you disrespect them too. Talk about a president this way. It's absolutely unbelievable. Even if you don't like him, even if you're never going to vote for him, even if you voted against him. This is definitely an illness. Definitely an illness. And it has been essentially embraced by the media. Absolutely incredible. You know, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Levin here. Our number 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. You see, Joe Scarborough, he has these insane rants. And he brings people onto his show who are equally insane. Vicious, narcissistic, hateful. And so it's nonstop. And same with this Brzezinski, just like her father. And he gets a job from NBC, MSNBC. And then he gets a further platform in the editorial pages of the Washington Post. Now, why is that? Because they agree with him. Because they reward this kind of behavior. They pay him an enormous amount of money to do what he's doing. These are media corporations. CNN, corporate. I'm not against corporations. But you need to understand when you hear the left talk about all these corporations and the copying of Bernie Sanders and all. The vast majority of corporations, certainly publicly held corporations, have boards with directors who are not conservative. Who are not conservative. The vast majority. Including these media corporations like Comcast and Disney and so forth. Most of the publishing houses in this company, the executive hierarchy, liberal. Most of them are based in New York, if not Manhattan itself. So they do promote this sort of stuff, and if they publish conservatives, it's like the reptile house at the zoo, as I say. We have a special imprint just for our conservatives. Why? Well, I can't really put them in with the other authors, whatever. Okay, great. It's amazing to me. And yet it's Trump. 9/11, attack Trump. Christmas, attack Trump. Why? All right. Let's take some calls. Jeff, Seattle, Washington, XM Satellite. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm fine, Mark. I used to work for a member of Congress back in the days when Joe Scarborough was there. And he was a lot different person back then. His beliefs were, well, a lot different than they are today. And I'm really torn by this. I'm trying to figure out if he was just an empty suit back then, or, does he really believe this stuff?
He gets a lot of money. I can assure you that if he were a principled, thoughtful, rational conservative, he wouldn't be on MSNBC. Can you think of one?
Not on MSNBC, no.
No, exactly. You must be part of the clown show, or as I call the conga line of freaks, or you will not be a host.
Okay, well, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks, Mark.
And he couldn't make it in talk radio, and Fox wouldn't hire him, so there you are. All right, Jeff, thank you for your call. Carmine, Fort Worth, Texas, the great WBAP. Go, please.
Mark, as an Air Force veteran and a retired captain of American Airlines who flew Flight 77 on September 8th, 2001, and scheduled the flight the days following, I just wanted to express my sincere gratitude for the magnificent tribute you continue to do commemorating 9/11 and reminding us why we love our country. And to Joe Scarborough and his ilk, America is not an idea, but as President Reagan once said, it is that shining city on the hill, and that this current president is trying to restore the fundamentals that made it great. Because if we continue down the road of the fundamental transformation of it, it won't be an idea, it will be a memory.
That is a brilliant point. Now, Carmine, as I played that stirring, frightening audio, I bet you put yourself right in that cockpit, didn't you?
Absolutely, Mark, and it really brings you back, and it's kind of difficult to listen to.
Chick Burlingame and his co-pilot, they fought for 6 minutes.
Yes, and I had the honor of picking up Debbie Burlingame at the airport when she came in for Chick's memorial service, and then I had also the honor of flying Brad, his brother, back to L.A. on that same flight. It was a different number that day.
Unbelievable. All right, my friend, thank you for your call and your service. 6 minutes in that tiny space up where the captain and the co-pilot were. They fought for their lives and to save those passengers and to save that jetliner. They fought for 6 minutes. It's a long time. They didn't have any weapons. The Islamo-Nazi terrorists did have weapons, the box cutters and so forth. Must have been horrific, absolutely horrific. Unbelievable, really. Brenda, Branson, Missouri, XM Satellite. How are you?
Thank you, Mark, for taking my call and for the wonderful introduction with the music, and it just stirred my heart. Mark, 17 years ago today, I worked as a nurse in California, and my son called me, and he said, Mom, there's the sweetest young lady that works here with us. They're computer animators. And he said, Mom, she just got the call that her mother and her grandmother were on the first plane. They hit the Twin Towers. And I said, oh, Nathan, be nice to her, be kind to her. And Mark, the good part for our family is that 8 years later he married her.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and she never has a day that she doesn't, and she has an identical twin, and they've gone to the memorial there in New York many times, and my son does portraits also, and he's painted a picture of her mother, and it's just the first thing you see when you walk in their home in California. It's a great likeness, but she suffers still to this day, and just so horrible thing that would happen to a young family.
I just don't think you recover from something like this. I don't think you recover when any family member dies such a horrific, violent death.
It's not. I mean, I was a hospice nurse, and I was with many that left this earth, but this was murder. This was just pure evil, and there's no answer for it. And my dear daughter-in-law, she carries that scar, and I know she always will. And I think of her today. I prayed for her this morning that she could have peace again, and go on with her life. So, but I
by the way, I want to thank you because a hospice nurse, I mean, you're so important to a family. You're just so important to a family at a time like that. So I want to thank you for doing that, too. I really don't know how people do it, but it takes a huge heart. So God bless you, my friend. Take care of yourself. All right. Do we have time for another call, Rich? Anthony, Queens, New York, police officer, the great WABC. Go.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
All right, thank you.
Producer, I have my little 9-year-old, and I'm driving him home. He goes, "You think we can call Mr. Levine?" I said, "I'll try." I said, you know, something like today, of all days, for Joe Scarborough to run himself through the mud and run this country through the mud when so many first responders were running to the trouble when everybody was running in the opposite direction. It just makes you nauseous, and I'm glad someone like you gives us a voice, you know. So,
well, let me tell you something, Anthony. I normally on this anniversary wouldn't waste my time pointing out somebody like that, but I've had enough. I've had enough. My parents taught me, and they taught me well. And I'll tell you, these leftists and these pseudo-leftists, they really do despise this country. They hate this country. You can't think the way they think and speak the way they speak and come to any other conclusion as far as I'm concerned. They can pretend that they just have a different point of view. I don't believe they do have a different point of view. That this isn't a typical debate. They have a hate-on. And, Anthony, thank you for your service, too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back very shortly. All right. Debbie, Cliffside Park, New Jersey, the great WABC. Go.
Yes, hi, Mark. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I'm calling about Joe Scarborough. I read that this morning. I almost came out of my skin. I just couldn't believe anybody could write anything so disgusting, so despicable, deranged about President Trump like that. Somebody who's actually trying to help our country. You know, its sovereignty and the American people and their jobs and secure our country and keep it safe. Why these globalists, all they want to do is open our borders and destroy our sovereignty and the American people's futures. I mean, it's
and what about the Washington Post running such a diabolical piece?
It's just unbelievable. It's just, I mean, to me, it's just a despicable excuse for a human being. It's just unbelievable, you know, that he could write something like that or even say it, even on 9/11. I mean, every year this comes around, it makes me cry. It's horrible. And to see that, it was just, I can't even describe it. It was just nuts.
Yeah, well, I feel exactly the same way. All right, let's take another call here. Jim, New York, the great WABC. How are you, sir?
Thank you for what you do, Mark. You do a great job.
Thank you, sir.
I wanted to talk to you about those football players who think they're like 9/11 responders. When I used to watch the NFL, I don't ever recall seeing a football player shot to death in the street or burnt alive in a fire or an EMS worker gets killed trying to rescue her truck. And, you know, what are these people thinking? Like, really? And how many of them are dying from autoimmune diseases and cancer and all the other diseases that are affecting the responders that went down there and did what we had to do? And I think they're just disgusting, despicable. And as far as Scarborough is concerned, he's just part of the cabal with the rest of them. You know, I think they were just all in cahoots and making this stuff up.
May I tell everybody what your title is or no?
Sure.
You're a lieutenant in the NYPD, is that correct?
I was. I'm retired.
You're retired. I want to thank you for your service, too, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, God bless. People have had enough. I've had enough. I can't stand it anymore. I can't stand it anymore. Kathy, Scranton, Pennsylvania, the great WTRW. Go.
Scarborough can go to that special place that they were talking about now.
Rhode Island?
I love you, Mark, and thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
I wanted to tell you what a wonderful, wonderful speech our president had today. He had come to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And he had stated that the passengers on the plane were heroes. Because they were. They got it together. They overtook the attackers. They stopped the plane from going into the White House because it was going to go to the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they gave up their lives. What a wonderful speech it was. And if you could play excerpts of that speech, I appreciate it. It was so wonderful. I'd hear it again even.
All right.
I'll tell you, what a patriarch we have for a president. No matter what these people say, it wasn't an inside job. This happened. And our government didn't do it to us. The people that did it to us were on those airplanes.
I'll play a few of those excerpts in the next hour. How do you like that? Because he gave a beautiful, beautiful speech. You're right.
Mark, thank you.
All right, you take care of yourself. You know, good Americans, patriotic Americans, what I call regular Americans, which are outstanding people. We've had enough of this. We've had enough. Cliff, Fort Worth, Texas, Sirius Satellite, go.
Mark, I want to personally thank you. This sounds weird, but I was a guest of the United States government about 9 years ago, and I started listening to the show and Rusty Humphreys after you every night, and you have changed the way I think, changed the way I live, changed the way my family lives, and I want to thank you personally for that, because I really did listen to you for 10 months every night.
You listened to me to 10 months in prison?
Yes.
Wait, I got to hear more of this if you're willing to hold on.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, don't hang up. I'm just curious, folks. I'll be right back. I want to go back to Cliff from Fort Worth, Texas. Cliff, you said you did some time, right?
I did 10 months at Club Fed for tax evasion.
Okay.
And I was a two-time Clinton supporter, if you know what I mean, back in my 20s and late teens. And I started listening to you. And then right after you, they played the rebroadcast of Rusty Humphreys. And I probably listened to 5 hours a night, honestly. And I'm telling you, my whole way of thinking changed. I was thinking inaccurately. I honestly was. And since then, just to give you an update, 9 years later, I've got a successful business, 70 employees, a wonderful 13-year-old son, and I'm telling you right now, I know it sounds weird, but you have a lot to do with that. You and Rusty Humphreys have a lot to do with that.
Well, aren't you kind? I'm really kind of proud to hear that, but it sounds like you're doing great now. Yes,
I really am. My business is taking off, and I said I've got employees all over the country now, and like 23 states, and yeah, it's really fantastic, and I really appreciate it. But I was going to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Last night, I made my son sit down with me and watch a 9/11 documentary. He was obviously born in 2005. He didn't get to witness it or know anything about it. And the questions he was asking me were incredible. He really was into it and asking me what happened in this and what are we doing about it. And I think it's really important that we educate our young, especially those born after 2000 or so that were too young or not born yet to remember it, why we do what we do and why our soldiers fight for what we do. And another question I have for you is, I want to get into your books. What's the first one I should read? Tell me the first one before I tackle the rest I should read.
I think the first one you should read, and we'll send you a copy, is Liberty and Tyranny.
All right.
So don't hang up, and we appreciate it, Cliff. Don't hang up. We'll send you a copy of Liberty and Tyranny. Why is it important to teach young people about what took place on 9/11 and so forth? Because of the book I wrote, Liberty and Tyranny. There's those who believe in liberty, those who believe in the civil society, those who believe in the golden rule, and then there are those who would destroy everything. We have an ideology loose in the land called progressivism. It's a nice-sounding word. We all believe in progress. But it's not progress. It's actually a throwback to feudalism and worse. It's an offshoot of a fabricated abstraction and ideology, really, that mostly comes out of Germany, like so many wonderful things. And that's why I wrote the book, Rediscovering Americanism and the Tyranny of Progressivism. I don't have enough time to get into all this today. We've talked about it in the past. But that said, we're in a battle over not just preserving our founding, but in so many ways reinstituting our founding principles. versus those who embrace a foreign or alien ideology that has been imported into the United States and is ubiquitous now. And you see it in the media, and you see it in entertainment, and in Hollywood. You see it in our politics. And it is, and it's consuming us. And they're fighting back. I don't believe President Trump views things this way, as constitutionalism versus progressivism, that sort of thing. But instinctively, he gets it. Instinctively, he gets it. He's a very sharp man. He's a man who's had enormous experiences in his life. He's built things. He's dealt with all kinds of people. Instinctively, he gets it. Which is why it's so frustrating to find intellectuals and pseudo-intellectuals among conservatives who don't get him. Again, you don't have to agree with everything, and I don't agree with everything, but that's not the point, is it? I promised the lady who called last hour, whose name escapes me, I apologize, that we would hear a little bit from Donald Trump's speech today. And so we shall. He was in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Cut 3, go.
Most importantly, to the family members of Flight 93. Today, all of America wraps up and joins together. We close our arms to help you shoulder your pain and to carry your great, great sorrow. Your tears are not shed alone, for they are shared grief with an entire nation. We grieve together for every mother and father, sister and brother, son and daughter who was stolen from us at the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and here in this Pennsylvania field. We honor their sacrifice by pledging to never flinch in the face of evil and to do whatever it takes to keep America safe.
And you can tell that the president is speaking from his heart. You can hear his emotion. Cut 4.
Here in Shanksville, many of you raised up the first memorial, a wooden cross, a chain-linked fence, mementos and tributes pouring in, and dozens of American flags. A piece of America's heart is buried on these grounds, but in its place has grown a new resolve to live our lives with the same grace and courage as the heroes of Flight 93. This field is now a monument to American defiance. This memorial is now a message to the world. America will never, ever submit to tyranny.
It's a beautiful, beautiful speech. Cut 5, go.
Earlier this week, you dedicated the final part of this memorial, the Tower of Voices. Standing at 93 feet tall, the Tower of Voices is now the first structure visitors see when they come to this now sacred ground. It will hold 40 beautiful chimes that ring throughout these fields, each a unique note, but all in perfect harmony. Each time we hear those chimes playing in the wind, we will remember the 40. We will remember their faces, their voices, their stories, their courage, and their love. And we will remember that free people are never at the mercy of evil, because our destiny is always in our hands. America's future is not written by our enemies. America's future is written by our heroes. As long as this monument stands, as long as this memorial endures, brave patriots will rise up in America's hours of need, and they too will fight back.
Beautiful. It was a great speech. Let's go to Bernie, Hudson, Florida, on the Mark Levin app. How are you, sir?
Hey, Mark, thanks for taking my call. I want to thank you for your service for bringing common sense to constitutional rights.
Thank you.
All this stuff on TV today with Joe Scarborough and all them, I'm a retired firefighter after 31 years. I wouldn't allow them in any fire station in the country or police station for some of the things that have been said today. And
it is. Yep. You go right ahead.
My other point, I get tired of listening to all these politicians, including the Republicans, when they talk about the American people want this or the American people want that. Those people were elected in their districts to represent the people of those districts, and they have no business representing all of Americans unless they all get together and they start going to meetings in all the states and listening to what all the American people decide that they want.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that they should just keep their mouth shut and do their job for the people that elected them.
Well, good luck with that.
Well, that ain't going to happen.
Have you ever seen a politician keep their mouth shut?
Well, I have now. Donald Trump is a politician now, and I'll tell you what. I never cared for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But I voted for him because he's got common sense and he's a business person. And this country for the last 25, 30 years has needed a business person to run it because all they do is steal us blind.
Will you vote for him again?
Yes, I will.
All right, sir. Thank you for your call. Let's quickly go to Marie, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the great WPHT. Go.
Hi, Mark. I'm a longtime listener, first-time caller.
Thank you.
And from your hometown.
Yes, you are.
This was a teachable moment. When 9/11 happened, I remember being devastated like everyone else. My background is I'm a nurse, wound specialist in Philadelphia. And I'm really good at what I do. So when this happened, it immediately hit me that, you know, there's people who are going to need my help. I called the Red Cross. The Red Cross told me that they had so many doctors and nurses who have called them but they thanked me. And I said, no, you don't understand. I'm a wound healer. This is what I do. This is what I do all of my time, and I'm great. I'm really good at what I do. No modesty here. So anyway, as I explained this to the caller at Red Cross, she said, well, that might make a difference. She said, let me talk to people here in administration, and let me call you back tomorrow morning. So that night I went home. We were having a grill on the deck. Our daughter was 8 years old at the time, and my husband, and I explained to them what I did. And they just looked at me. My husband understood. My daughter began to immediately begin to cry and beg me not to go. And I said to her, Jill, there's times when people need to step up to the plate because of what they do. I said, you understand. I said, I am like the best wound healer in Philadelphia, don't you? And she said, well, yeah, Mom, you are good. And I said, honey, I got to do this. This is when you have to do this type of thing. And despite her crying, she basically understood. Well, maybe not really, but today she does. Point being is the next day I got a phone call back from the Red Cross, and they told me, and it was really very sad. They said that they really thanked me. They wanted me to, they really would love to have had me be able to go, but that there were no survivors. So they weren't in need of wound healing. Today, my daughter's 25.
I've got 30 seconds.
She's finishing off nursing school. At the age of 14, she joined the Southampton Fire Company. She's been a volunteer fire company. They sent her to EMT training. She goes out on the truck with them as the EMT, and she's in a local rescue squad.
That's fascinating. You think this came out of your discussion with her?
I actually think it came out of, I think that added to it, but she was always enamored with fire, the fire company. She loved watching fire trucks.
All right, Marie, this is a wonderful story. I want to thank you. I've got a hard break. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Fakima, New York, New York, the great WABC. Go.
Yes,
How are you?
Mark.
Go right ahead. We only have a few minutes. I don't want to lose you. Go ahead.
First of all, you're the funniest guy that I've heard on TV as a commentator. Just had to tell you that.
Well, thank you.
The thing that I'm calling about is that Rosenstein, Page, Strzok, Hillary, Comey, and Mueller should be charged with treason by Trump's administration because the dossier was fabricated with an agent from Russia, which means it's levied war against the United States. They just working out the details.
Well, you know what, Fakima, I've been arguing for a special counsel to investigate this for a long time. Even people who don't like special counsel say, Mark, we don't like special counsel. Look, something really dirty and corrupt happened in our government. We're able to pull a fiber here, pull a fiber there, and I smelled this over a year and a half ago, for which I was attacked. We need to get to the bottom of this. What really took place at DOJ and the FBI? What really took place at the CIA and the National Intelligence Director's Office? What really took place in the orbit of Barack Obama and so forth and so on? And the fact that they won't appoint one is really shocking to me.
You think that this will go away like the other stuff with Fast and Furious
and the IRS and all? Listen, if we don't have people held to account in an institutional way, it's not going to go away. I think we've only hit the tip of the iceberg. I think there's a hell of a lot more people involved in this.
I do too, and I think what Trump should do, get to these midterms, he needs to start shutting down certain areas of the government that is under Article 2 to deal with the corruption as a national emergency that we got. And he could do that. I mean, popular. But
well, Joe Scarborough will accuse him of being Hitler.
Well, Scarborough is mentally deranged.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
See, I used to be... See, this is the thing about Democrats. Democrats are trained. Well, how are they? They're trained to think like that subconsciously from the media and the way society is set up, because the predominant major cities in America are run cities. And then you're trained to think this way. I'm from New York. I'm 56. Trump has always been that way. He's never changed. He calls.
You know, I really wish you'd called earlier, because you fascinate me. And you sound in some ways like John Voight, who said, when I was a leftist, propaganda, you're trained to think a certain way, and it's hard to break that code. Call me again, friend, okay? We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, all you wonderful first responders. God bless you all on this terrible day. I hope you'll check out LEVIN TV tonight.